Braids are on repeat over here at the Snugglery, and in researching this crochet braided headband video, I actually found almost too many ways to make a braided headband. So I did my best to narrow it down to the top 3 ways. One super beginner friendly, one more intermediate for those who like front post back post cables, and one advanced braid that is even a little bit of a Tunisian crochet hybrid. So without further ado, let's grab some super bulky weight yarn. I'm using Ice Yarn's Alpine Alpaca and a 10mm USP hook. Oh, did you notice my pretty new Furls crochet hook? A present to myself right here, and I've actually got a full review planned for these hooks, so subscribe to stay tuned for that. Starting with the beginner-friendly version, we're working towards a piece that looks like this, with 3 strands connected on either end. It looks like you can't braid it, but you actually can, and I'll demonstrate how right after I show you how to crochet this 3-strand thingy-do. We'll start by chaining 41 chains. Then, skip the first chain and make 1/2 double crochet into the next chain by yarning over, inserting your hook to pull up a loop, yarn over and pull through 3 loops on your hook. And continue making 1/2 double crochet in each of these chains of the foundation chain for a total of 40 half double crochet stitches. Chain 1, turn, and make 1/2 double crochet in every stitch. So turning chains don't count as stitches for this pattern. On this next row, we'll separate out the first strand by chaining 1 and turning and making 1/2 double crochet in each of the next 5 stitches. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then you're going to start chaining and make a chain of 30 here. We'll skip 30 stitches from the previous row, but to do that easily, you can count 5 stitches from the other end. And make 1/2 double crochet right into that 5th stitch from the end. And 1/2 double crochet in each remaining stitch. So we've got 5 stitches here, 30 chains with 30 stitches underneath, and 5 half double crochets at the end. Now we'll chain 1, turn, and make 1/2 double crochet in each stitch. And I want to direct your attention to this little stitch here that kind of looks like a chain, but it's actually the 5th half double crochet stitch to work into, because the stitch will sit kind of ahead of the post from the previous row. So now you're also going to work 1/2 double crochet in each chain. And you may be working into the back of the chain too, like me, but that's no biggie. So, 30 stitches into the chains. and into each of the last 5 stitches. Then you'll repeat that by doing another half double crochet row, then another chain row, and 2 half double crochet rows, and fasten off with a longish tail. And you'll have this weird little guitar string thing. Now let me show you how to braid it. You can start at the top and begin braiding the 3 strands as if they weren't connected on the bottom. And once I've completed a couple of braids, it starts to clump up down here, and I run out of braidable strand. So I'm going to hold my spot on the braid with one hand, and with the other hand I'm going to untwist this bottom part. I'll follow the twist in the strand to guide me from where this little end bit needs to be flipped up. And if your ends don't come completely untwisted yet, that's okay. We're just trying to get a little more length to keep braiding from the top. Then I'll continue braiding until the bottom gets clumped up again. Untwist by flipping the bottom part through the strands. Then I'll continue braiding until the bottom gets clumped up again. Untwist by flipping the bottom part through the strands. And at the very end, I've got one last twist, so I'm going to flip it out. Squeeze one more braid in here. Flip it back. And ta-da! Nothing is twisted anymore, and I think I've got about as much braid as I can, so I'm just going to adjust it until they're all even. And all that's left is to seam the ends together, which can be easily done with slip stitches. I've got my edges lined up, and I can pull my tail through like a little loop and slip stitch evenly across. And that completes Braided Headband Method 1 for a thick, cozy ear warmer. Method 2 is totally different. This one uses front post, back post cable crochet. So, to get this headband started, you're going to chain 11. Skip the first 3 chains, which counts as your first double crochet for this row only. Then, make 1 double crochet in the 4th chain, and in every remaining chain for a total of 9 double crochets in the first row, counting your skip chain 3. Next, we're going to do just 1 row of straight back post double crochet. To do this, we're going to chain up 2 and turn, and for this whole pattern, the chain 2 at the beginning of rows doesn't count as a stitch. It's just to get us up to the height we need to start the row. So we'll work our first stitch around this first double crochet from the previous row. Start by yarning over, and I like to hold the yarn over with my thumb so I can come down from the back to the front to scoop up that first post stitch and complete my double crochet. The next one is a little more straightforward. Back to front to weave in front of this post and complete a back post double crochet stitch. And continue making back post double crochets around each of the 9 stitches from the previous row. Now chain 2 and turn to start our first cable. For row 3, we're actually going to skip these first 3 double crochets. Start by working a front post around each of the next 3 stitches. Then we can come back to work the 3 we skipped, starting all the way over on the right. And finally, work the last 3 front post double crochets. And this little starting chain too is hanging out here, getting ignored in the back. Row 4 is just to work back post double crochets along the back of your work. So we're going to chain 2, turn, doesn't count as a stitch, and swoop around back to front to work a back post double crochet around those last 3 stitches we just made. Now it gets a little tricky to see the next stitches you need to work. So I like to kind of peer over to the front of my work like this, so I can see those next 3 stitches that I need to work. And my middle 3 stitches that got crossed over during the first cable are kind of hiding under here. So I can tease them out, find them in the back here, and work 1, 2, 3 in the order that they appear. I'm actually going to insert my hook into this little pocket they created, so I can work around the back of the first post. Whoopsie. There we go. And the next one. And the last one, not to be confused with this chain 2 at the end here that we're ignoring. Now let's chain 2 and turn to see what we've got. We've crossed one set of 3 double crochets over another, and it's time to cross the last set of 3 stitches over the middle 3. So to do that, for row 5, we're going to work front post double crochets around the first 3 stitches just normally in the order that they appear. And we're going to skip over the middle 3 double crochets to work front posts around the last 3 double crochets first. Now we're ready to work the middle 3, but we don't want to come from the front like this because we want the center strand of our braid to wind up coming from the back. So to do that, I'm going to yarn over and stabilize that yarn over to come from the back and poke my hook through this little hole in the center between my first 3 and last 3 stitches. Now I can work a front post around this first stitch of the center set of 3. And do the very same thing for the next 2 stitches. And now the braid is really doing its thing, huh? We're getting a braid without having to crochet any separate pieces. Next, you'll work back posts around each of the stitches from the previous row, so right around each of those 3 double crochets you just made. Then we'll check out the front and make sure we're working these 3 guys from the crisscross in order. Then work those last 3 back post stitches that are pretty straightforward. These ones aren't crisscrossed at all. And those are the 4 rows you'll be repeating over and over for the rest of your braid. I'll show you that first cabling row again. So we're skipping the first 3, going right into the middle 3, then working the first 3, and the last 3. Continue like that until your piece measures 20 to 21 inches. It'll have a decent amount of stretch. And work one more row of straight front post double crochets across the last row so that our edges kind of match up a bit better. Then you can slip stitch seam these edges together with the wrong sides facing out. So I'm going to pull my last live loop through here so I can chain 1, turn, and start seaming. I'm going to slip stitch 1 for 1 the last row of stitches here to the foundation chain edge. And I actually found that working into the space between posts on the foundation chain edge looks best. So rather than the chains themselves, into the space between posts. And here's how that seam will look on the inside and the outside. Very clean and finished looking. And there's our intermediate braid, braid number 2, aka a 3-strand crochet cable headband. Last, but certainly not least, is something a little different for advanced crocheters. We're borrowing some techniques from Tunisian crochet to create this poofy braid-esque cord that I was able to fashion into a headband. So for this one, we're going to need a hook with a long neck that can hold a lot of stitches. So I had to put my little bubble butt ergonomic hook aside and opt for this plain one. And of course, a Tunisian hook would work great. So let's dive right in by chaining 4. And we're going to skip the first 3 chains And into the very last chain, work 6 unfinished double crochets by yarning over, insert your hook to pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, but don't complete that double crochet. Rather, yarn over, insert to pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2 again. And we're going to do that a total of 6 times. Until you've got 7 loops on your hook. And now it's time for the little Tunisian bit of the pattern. To start that, we're going to yarn over and pull through just 1 loop. Now yarn over and pull through 2 loops. Yarn over, pull through 2 once more. And you'll have 5 loops on your hook. With 5 loops on your hook, you can yarn over and pull through all 5 loops. And that completes our first setup cluster. We'll chain 1 and pull it real tight. Chain 2 and begin the second setup cluster. Right into this chain space, again, work 6 unfinished double crochets right into that chain space. Then you're going to come to the front of your work and work 1 last unfinished double crochet around the same chain space, but from the front this time. Then with 8 loops on your hook, we're going to do that Tunisian thingy-do again. Yarn over, pull through 1, then yarn over, pull through 2, 3 times. So 1, 2, 3. And with 5 loops on your hook, yarn over and pull through all 5 loops. Then we can chain, tighten, chain 2, and turn to see what we've got. The start of our little braid. But these were just the setup rows. The actual 2-row repeat begins now, with 6 unfinished double crochets into this first chain space. Then we'll work 3 unfinished double crochets into the space below here, between your last 2 clusters. Now with a ton of loops on your hook, 10 to be exact, we're going to squeeze in 1 more unfinished double crochet around the bottom of this chain space where you worked your previous cluster. With 11 loops on your hook, yarn over, pull through 1, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, and you'll pull through 2 a total of 6 times in order to get 5 loops left on your hook. Yarn over, pull through 5, chain 1 and tighten, and now we've really started our braid. I'll show you what the wrong side row looks like. It's very similar. We'll chain 2, turn, and work 6 unfinished doubles into the chain space. Then in the space below, between your last 2 clusters, work 3 unfinished doubles, And for your last unfinished double crochet, you'll come around to the front to find the bottom of that chain space where we were working the majority of our previous cluster into. Now we can do the Tunisian bit. Yarn over, pull through 1, yarn over, pull through 2, 6 times. Yarn over, pull through the 5 remaining loops on your hook. So let's chain 1, chain 2, and turn to see what we've got going on. The little braid is forming. So repeat those last 2 rows until your braid fits comfortably around your head, about 22 inches. Keep in mind this cord does not have much stretch to it. And after working your last wrong side row, you can fasten off and thread a little tapestry needle with the tail. We'll seam the 2 edges together, with them slightly overlapping like this. That produced the best result for me. So I'm just going to try to do an invisible seam, working from back to front, and then the front through to the back. Just trying to maintain the 3D quality of the piece and secure those edges together. And here's how it looks. That is how I made this very unique advanced crochet braid, and wow, if you stuck through this whole video, that's awesome. This is probably one of my longest tutorials, but I just discovered so much crochet braid goodness, I wanted to share it all with you. So thank you so much for watching this whole darn thing, and I'll have a link to the blog post for these patterns down below. See you next time. Bye!